Thank you very much, Ben, and thank you very much for this invitation. I'm delighted to introduce Panel 7, which will deal with the race to the top, raising standards in regulation and innovations. Among the key topics that we will be tackling today are: how are policymakers and platforms developing good standards and ecosystems for a healthy technology sector, through competition or cooperation? How can innovation ecosystems and policy be developed internationally? And how can different jurisdictions and sectors work together to define a regulatory frameworks based on shared values and to boost innovations? So, to answer these questions today, we have a wonderful panel of experts with experts from academia, civil society, and governments both at national level and EU level. So to not to lose more time, I will give the floor to Dr. Emilija Stojmenova, who is the Slovenian Minister for Digital Transformation. Emilija, the floor is yours.
So thanks a lot for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here with all today. Karine, do you expect it more to start with, or first we should go with the presentations of all of us?
So what would be nice in order to foster some exchange and then discussions is if you start by your presentation, each of you, like 5 minutes each, and after we will go through common questions or tailor-made questions, depending also on the feedbacks we get from the audience.
Okay, perfect. So I was not informed that you were expecting a presentation from our side, so I don't have a PowerPoint or something like that. But maybe I can just show you what is the main pillars of the digital transformation of Slovenia, if that would be fine. As a minister, and I'm quite new here, I've been here only for 4 months now. I have a mission to bring the benefits of digital transformation to our citizens and make the future better for all of us. So we, of course, I'm sure that we all agree that the digital technologies are shaping the quality of our lives nowadays, and therefore they need to be accessible to everyone, which means they need to be inclusive, safe, secure, and sustainable. So these are also the goals of our digital strategy 2030 of Slovenia that we're now finishing it. So what is very important for us is, of course, the developing of the gigabit infrastructure by 2030. And I'm very happy to say that we are fostering the connectivity in our country, which means that at the moment, the next generation of fixed broadband access covers 88% of households in rural areas. And our goal is to be even better, which means to achieve gigabit connectivity for households and businesses in rural and urban areas in 100% 5G coverage of populated areas by 2030. So what is also very important for us is that we give particular attention to data, especially to open data that ensure accessibility, transparency, and of course trust in government, as well as economic benefits by creating new services, new products, new business opportunities. Slovenia is very successful in the field of public sector open data. And in the last year's European report on data maturity, Slovenia was recognized as a trendsetter in the open data indicator, which we are very proud of. We expand our open data sharing platform, which is called OPSI, and is built together with public sector and industry. The aim of this portal, OPSI, is to build effective data spaces. So our current objective is to set up a network of data stewards in the public sector, and we're doing this together with the OECD. So this will be for the first time that we'll have such a network within the government institutions, and then we want to continue this approach in the other public administration area as well. Another thing that is important is the smart cities and communities, and here we are ambitious when it comes to smart cities, which means that we're building the common platform for all of them and help them both with financial incentives as well. For us, it is very important that the communities are using unified solutions, both in terms of data opening as well as of interoperability. So artificial intelligence is definitely one of our main priorities, and Slovenia is hosting the UNESCO Center for Artificial Intelligence, and we have a very vibrant AI community in the country. So our ambition is to introduce high quality, transparent, and of course ethical AI that will be focused on people and will work for their good. We are very much aware that digital transformation is successful only when all members of the society are equally included and when no one is left behind, not only on national but also on global level. So in Slovenia, we are particularly concerned about the gender, then also the rural-urban and the age digital divide. Empowering women with digital skills enables them to fully and meaningfully participate in democracy, education, and business in the digital society. And here we don't only speak about women, but for us it is very important that everybody is involved in the digital transformation processes. But then when it comes to involvement of everybody, we must not forget about the safety and security. And when it comes to safety and security, safe digital products must adhere to the highest available international standards. So our goal in Slovenia is to ensure a safe internet where users will be able to recognize disinformation and online scams, and that they will be safe from cyber attacks, cyberbullying, and so on and so on. So, an important issue is also preventing the hate speech on one side, and on the other side, ensuring freedom of expression on the other side. Last but not least, we understand that digital transformation also as a tool towards sustainability. And our society is currently experiencing a transition in what we call the both transition, which means both digital and green economy. So bringing digital in our lives is helping us reduce the carbon footprint. And however, we need to ensure that digital technologies do not consume more energy than they save. So for shortly, I would stop here and then we can continue with the questions later on.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Actually, it's an honor to have you today because, as everybody knows, Slovenia has really been at the center of the digital transformation, and this 360 degrees tour is very interesting. Indeed, as far as AI is concerned, Slovenia has signed, as well as 192 other members countries, the UNESCO recommendation on ethics of AI, and also has recently been the president of the EU, of the Council of the European Union. It has held, the presidency of the Council of the European Union. And as some of you knows, Gregor Stojan, also Slovenian, has been the chair of the CAI committee at the Council of Europe, who's been drafting a pre-draft of a convention on AI. And currently, since we are discussing at EU level the EU AI Act, it is very interesting to see the policies developed at national level and how they could trigger a race to the top. So now, without further ado, I will give the floor to Isidro Laso Ballesteros, who is cabinet expert for Commissioner Mariya Gabriel in the field of innovation, research, culture, education, and youth at the European Commission. Thank you very much, Isidro. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction, Karin. And it's a pleasure for me to be here on behalf of the Commissioner Gabriel. She apologizes that she is not able to attend today. But this is certainly a topic that is very close to the heart of the Commissioner. We have recently launched a new European Innovation Agenda that is updating the Innovation Agenda of 2011, and what was adopted on the 7th of July, and is focused on what we call the fourth wave of innovation, the deep tech innovation. So let me spend a few minutes here explaining to you how we see the deep tech innovation. So for us, deep tech has these three words: deep, tech, and innovation. Let's start with the first one, deep. So the word in deep means our deepest societal challenges. It's not high innovation, high tech, it's deep tech. So the word in deep refers to that. There is no such a thing as deep tech or shallow depths, shallow tech. This is not certainly not our intention. We have the wording deep because of the deepest societal challenge that we want to tackle. Then we have the tech wording because we want to address these societal challenges with technology. We want to find solutions to them, not through regulation or through other means, but we want to find solutions through technology. Technology that, and this is where the last wording comes, to be translated into innovative products. So this is what is behind the wording, the deep tech innovation. So it's very important not to confuse with high tech or anything like that. Although I know there is a lot of confusion out there of people who are thinking that the deep tech is making a parallelism between both, but it's not the case. So why deep tech innovations are the focus of the new European innovation agenda? Well, because precisely of the word in deep, not because of the words, but because of the word in deep. Because it's the only type of innovations that can help to solve our society problems. We are talking about the energy crisis, the food crisis, and all the other crises that are now happening in Europe. And we believe that this is the way to solve our problems after the third wave of innovation, that was the digital revolution. And we have been talking already for the last 20 years a lot on digital, and we will continue talking on digital, the digital transition for the SMEs, etc. But we want, in the innovation agenda, we want to move to the next level. We want to move to a situation where we have the digital together with physical and with biological. Because with digital, we can achieve a much better, our life are easier. We can do shopping, we can do banking, we can do phone conferences like this we are doing. This makes our life easier. And for the businesses, digital means more efficient processes, less human errors in the processes, and all that is fine. But now we need to move to the next wave of innovation, where we bring this physical together with the with the digital. We bring together with the physical and with the biological. And then we don't do processes more efficiently, we do other type of products. That's what we want to do. And here we are talking in particular about sectors in which Europe is very strong. Europe is very strong in the traditional sectors with a physical component. We are talking about automotive, construction, food, agriculture, energy. All these sectors, Europe is a leader. And in this new wave of innovation, we are bringing these industrial sectors to at the core of the innovation. It's not any longer the fagas of these waves of this world, the Facebook, Amazon, Google, and Apples of this world. We are talking now that our industrial companies will be at the center of this new wave of innovation, where we will bring, of course, the digital component as well and the biological component. So and that's why, if we do the things right, as we are planning to do with the new European innovation agenda, Europe can become the leader of this new wave of innovation. Because, I'm coming back to the three words, deep, tech, and innovation, this kind of innovations require tech that is normally related to science. So when we are talking about innovations in construction sector or in the health sector or in automotive sector, we are talking normally to innovations that are very much related to science results. And this is what, and this is where in Europe we are leaders. You know that we are the number ones in terms of publications in scientific journals. No, so this is one of our strengths. The other strength is that, as I said, this in order to achieve the deep societal changes that we want to achieve, we need to bring the physical components as well. And as I said before, we are very good in manufacturing and on all the sectors with a strong industry. So the combination of these two strengths of the EU, science and traditional industries, makes us believe that we can become the new leaders of innovation. Will not be any longer catching up with the States or China on digital unicorns, but on the contrary, the future fagas of this world will be done in Europe and will be done around this digital, physical, and biological components together. And this brings a very interesting dimension when talking about regulators, because in all these sectors are heavily regulated. For construction, any new material, any new product that goes there, or in manufacturing, or in energy, everything is very much regulated. That means that the innovation ecosystems have to transform completely from the current digital innovation ecosystems, where we have the digital startups doing what they want to do, and then later they come to the regulators to see, well, this doesn't fit with the regulation, how we adapt, then they have to do a posteriori, or we force them to change the things that that have been working already for many years. This should not happen in these new deep tech innovation ecosystems. In the deep tech innovation ecosystems, the regulators should be together with the innovators from the beginning. And that's why in the new European Innovation Agenda, the Pillar 2, we have experimentation and sandboxes approaches, where we will have the regulators working from the beginning with the innovators. So we will not be any longer the innovators working and then the regulators trying to catch up. This is not what we want to do. We want now that we work together from the beginning, and this is something unique in Europe. I was with the Commissioner Gabriel last week in Silicon Valley. We are very much ahead of Silicon Valley on this type of innovations, and the involvement with the regulators, and the involvement with the physical industries. So we were visiting there a hydrogen startup, and they recognized to us that the leaders of these kind of things were in Europe. So we need to ensure that this continues the case in 5-10 years, and that we go back to Silicon Valley 5-10 years, and we reconfirm that we are still the leaders on this new way of innovation. This is our strengths, as I said, this manufacture, this physical industry, science, and also the role of the regulators in sandboxes and experimentation facilities that will be facilitated thanks to the new European Innovation Agenda. And that's the key messages I wanted to convey at the beginning.
Thank you very much, Isidro, for explaining to us how the EU intends to lead, or is actually already leading, according to you, the race to the top in the field of innovation and research. Just to make sure, I would already have a question for you. Other transversal questions we will address at the end of the different presentation, but could you please tell us what are the differences between innovation ecosystems in the digital revolution and deep tech innovation ecosystems?
Thank you, Karen, for the question. This is a discussion we had with the COO of Meta in Silicon Valley, in Palo Alto, with Javier Olivan. We're talking that the digital innovation ecosystems has essentially startups and investors, essentially. A little bit of universities, but essentially these two worlds. No? And then in the deep tech innovation ecosystems, we will, of course, continue having startups, we will continue having investors, but we will need to bring the universities, because the type of talent needed for the deep tech startups is very different to the digital startups. The digital startups need two types of talent, developers and marketing experts. These are the two main ones. In the deep tech, to these two, you will need to add engineers and scientists to make the deep tech innovation. So this is a big difference. The universities will have a key role in this new deep tech innovation ecosystem. The second difference is that the digital startups has been disrupting the non-regulated sectors like gaming, like video conferencing, like even fintech is regulated, but let's say it's not the same level of regulation like legal, like the health, etc. And the type of sectors that these deep tech innovations will be disrupting are the ones I mentioned, automotive, energy, etc. And therefore, we need to have the industry from the beginning into the ecosystem. In the digital innovation ecosystem, the industry is only at the end, or mainly at the end, for mergers and acquisition, for liquidity events, to acquire the startups, sometimes to work with them, but this is less common. Most common is they are there to buy the startups when they have started to grow. No? And the role of this industry in the deep tech innovation ecosystem will be completely different. They will be at the core from the beginning, because they are the industries that will be disrupted. And the third difference is that there will be also a new player in this innovation ecosystem that will be the regulators. The regulators cannot be any longer at the end, coming to regulate what has been developed for many years, but should be from the beginning. because these sectors are all very heavily regulated in Europe and in the States, and the regulators need to be learning to co-create innovators from the beginning. So these are the three main differences. Universities, industry, and innovators will join investors and founders in the innovation ecosystem.
Thank you very much, Isidro, for this explanation. Actually, it will provide the perfect transition to our next speaker, who is actually from academia, but which will provide also both a global and US perspective, and which also will provide us with a perspective from the engineering sector. So now I will give the floor to Professor Lauren Kisselberg from Purdue University, who also happens to be the co-chair of the IEEE AI Governance Standards Committee and the immediate past chair of ACAIM's Global Technology Policy Council. Lauren, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction, Corinne, and thank you to the conference organizers for this invitation to participate in the discussion today. So as a social scientist, my research and my advocacy in the past 5 years has centered on questions of ethics, standards, and policy for the field of artificial intelligence. And just as quick background, I was trained first as a computer scientist, and then at the graduate level on human-computer interaction and the social implications of emerging technology. So this rapid growth of artificial intelligence in the past decade has been a fruitful and challenging area, particularly for questions about governance. So in this time, and I'm talking about the last 5 years really, we've reached good convergence internationally on the foundational ethical principles that should undergird standards and governance of AI and emerging innovative technologies, including principles like fairness, accountability, transparency, safety, privacy, and sustainability and well-being. So for example, the 2021 UNESCO AI principles, which Corinne mentioned earlier, were adopted last year by 193 member state countries. A few years before that, the OECD AI principles were endorsed by leaders from G7 and G20 countries. And just last week in the United States, the Office of Science and Technology Policy released an AI Bill of Rights that establishes protections of civil rights as well as safety and privacy. So each of these documents, if you will, set forth a common set of principles that are grounded in fundamental ethical principles of justice, autonomy, non-maleficence, but they're also strongly focused on the protection of human and civil rights and societal well-being. But translating these principles to practice is the important next step, and it's reflected by this ongoing work by numerous standards-setting organizations to establish standards and frameworks for the design and development of AI technologies, as well as the governance of technologies that have been deployed through risk assessment, accountability, and oversight. So for example, in the United States, the National Institute of Standards and Technologies, which is called NIST, is an international leader in the development of technical standards and has been working for over 2 years to develop a framework for AI risk management, including standards and measures and governance principles to promote innovation as well as public trust in AI systems. And we expect this work from NIST will lead to global adoption, a lot like the standards in 2016 for cybersecurity. And that global cross-sector framework was critically important in creating a framework and a standard to create efficiencies in development, but importantly, a common language across industry sectors and cohesion among international stakeholders. And on another front, IEEE, which is the Professional Society of Electrical Engineers and Technology Professionals, with 500,000 members, has long contributed to developing professional standards for design and development. And it's noted for its member-based approach. And so it thereby centers the knowledge and the experience and challenges of the practitioner. So for example, as Corinne mentioned, I'm currently helping to chair a working group to develop the standards for the governance of AI, bringing together lawyers and engineers from around the world to develop a common framework for the governance and oversight in organizations. And in this work, we discuss important processes, including risk assessment, public safety and autonomous systems, including human autonomy, ensuring the protection of civil and human rights, respecting privacy and individual rights, as well as the importance of stakeholder engagement. And as an international group, discussions in this working group frequently center around finding common definitions and values, recognizing the local and the national context and legislation, and addressing multiple stakeholder perspectives. So because of its broad importance in the global economy with huge social, economic, security, and geopolitical implications, not just in big tech, but across multiple commercial sectors, international cooperation is a critically important piece of this puzzle today. And traditionally, we think that there are three major regional players in driving this rapid expansion of AI: the United States, China, and Europe. And while the last U.S. administration, excuse me, was primarily focused on the competitive race to maintain global dominance in this market, in the past 2 years, our new administration has worked to strengthen cooperation with Europe. And the new US-EU Trade and Technology Council, for example, has been working to strengthen this economic partnership to expand access to digital tools, create common technology standards for evaluation and measurement of trustworthy AI and risk management, based on shared democratic values and the protection of human rights. So in summary, the development of internationally cooperative standards grounded in universal principles and upheld through regulatory enforcement is essential to ensuring we continue to develop AI technology that benefit humanity, respect human rights, and contribute to a healthy economy and society. That's it.
Thank you very much, Lauren, for both providing us with a global and US perspective on the race to the top through standards. Now, without further ado, I will give the floor to Mahelis Cook, who is the head of the Innovation Department at the Estonian Financial Supervision and Resolution Authority. And it is quite interesting to get this other perspective from independent from an agency, and also especially in Estonia, since Estonia is one of the leading countries in Europe in the digital transformation. So Mahelis, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Karin, and thank you to the organizers for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here. To slightly maybe set the frame of what I will speak about and what issues I feel strongly connected with. And I will start by introducing myself. So I'm the head of innovation department at Estonian FSA, which is the Financial Supervision Authority in Estonia. And that means the core objectives of my organization are to enhance the stability, reliability, transparency, and efficiency of the financial sector, reduce systemic risk, help prevent the abuse of the financial sector for criminal activities, and ultimately do all this in order to protect investors and customers. A very peak part of this job is, of course, based on regulations, which I'm sure everyone is aware are extremely strict and very complex in the financial sector. For us in the innovation department, things are slightly different. One of our most important daily jobs is to ensure the smooth running of our innovation hub, which is intended to be this first point of communication for innovative business models. And our job is to understand how these new businesses work, what existing rules may apply to them, and guide the company toward the next steps. To put it simply, our job is to communicate with so-called fintech companies and try to ensure that if there are risks involved that financial supervision should be aware of, then everyone knows what the rules of the game are. And in that sense, I would say we aim to also achieve what Isidro described, to be there from the start as regulators. So if we talk about fintechs, then there are a few distinctive traits that set them apart of more traditional financial service providers. And one of these is that they are usually rather multidisciplinary, and they tend to encompass some inventions that are often borrowed from other sciences, such as statistics or mathematics or biometrics. Another trait that often comes with them is that they at least aim to be more democratic than what is usually expected from financial services. Think, for example, crowdfunding or Web3. And it is very often about a community coming together on an internet platform and doing something together. And importantly, for this discussion, fintechs usually have global ambitions, right? So they do not want to be constrained by geographical borders. For instance, not one jurisdiction in the world can say Bitcoin is theirs. It is absolutely global. And all of this, of course, poses a lot of challenges for regulators to ensure that investors and consumers, remain protected. So jumping to the maybe first question we had written down in our panel description, I don't think developing a good technology sector can be a shield to competition. Instead, I think cooperation on many different levels is now needed more than ever. Luckily, the financial sector has already witnessed similar issues before. So many decades ago, banking also became, rather global. And when one of such cross-border banks went out of business in 1974, then the Basel Committee was established to set out global standards for banking. And of course, these standards failed to take into account the changing landscape. So they did not save us from the global financial crisis in 2008, but that again prompted to develop better standards that perhaps now could ensure better financial stability. And the issue here with fintechs is that ensuring financial stability, is not enough. The multidisciplinary and very borderless nature of these new companies mean that we also have to find ways to globally ensure data privacy, ethicality of decisions based on data, safeguarding of funds attributed to global public distributed ledgers or blockchains, identity verification, protecting against cyber risks, etc. And my point here is that setting unified rules for fintechs and probably all types of global technologies is for me rather unavoidable. I think the direction the EU has taken in terms of digital finance, where all of these new novel phenomena are receiving harmonized rules across the member states, is a great step in the right direction. The upcoming markets in crypto assets or MiCA regulation is a good example of it, as I have not really ever come across a crypto asset offering or service provider that looks at the Estonian 1.3 million population and thinks that this is all the business it will ever want, right? So, obviously, digital solutions are all about capturing as large a market that is possible. And if the rules were highly fragmented, it would be either near impossible for these financial innovations that may involve real benefits for the users to evolve, or it could easily become a race to the bottom. And regarding the first, I think the MiCA regulation also provides a negative example. From what I have understood, the final text will include rules that limit the volume a stablecoin based on non-EU currencies can have in the block. So basically, stablecoins from non-EU jurisdictions will have limited use. And this, of course, works against financial inclusion and economic development. But on the other hand, since other jurisdictions may not apply similar rules on these stablecoins, then it's understandable that the EU has to limit certain risks. But overall, I do not think having the exact same rules and regulations globally for novel technologies will ever be feasible, and they are not even feasible in the traditional financial sector, since the market situations can be extremely different, and they obviously cannot be feasible for such sensitive areas as data protection and identities. However, I still believe if you want to foster technological innovation, then the global standards are very much a must, and there should be set for a large array of topics, which will probably shape the future of our societies. And also, I feel obligated to say that usually we come to the conclusion that such standards are needed once something blows up in a very bad way. And I would rather not wait for that, as that means people get hurt where that could have been avoided. And I also think that regulators, not only from different jurisdictions, but also from different fields, will have to open up new channels of cooperation.
Thank you very much for input, Mahelis. Actually, since you all provided us with input from different perspectives and in different sectors, I would like now to ask you some transversal questions coming from the audience, and we just have 8 minutes left. So I will group two together, which goes well together actually. Does regulation in the field of digitalization hinder or promote innovation? What are the challenges in balancing AI governance or digital governance and competitive innovation? Who would like to provide some feedback or answers to these questions?
I'll make a quick start on that, but certainly I know the others will jump in as well. So this is a classic question that comes up all the time: is that regulation will stifle innovation, and therefore, for those that are market-based in terms of ensuring their dominance in the market, there's a resistance to doing that. Different this time, a couple of things. One, the technology itself and the risk involved in ubiquitous, embedded ecosystem of artificial intelligence applications and technology. The risks are large, and there are risks not only to individuals, there are risks to societies, there are risks to economies. The thing that's been different about the US is for 2 or 3 decades now, more than that actually, it's been built on this open distributed system of innovation that has encouraged an open flow of information and sharing and so forth, and still believed in the market system that things will become good in this. But China has created a unique challenge to this US position of openness. And that is because China has been very aggressive at acquiring, it's a word I will say, intellectual property and innovation elements from its rivals, and then using it in a way that essentially serves the national interest, but not necessarily the global interest. And so, obviously, because China is a large company, has a number of workers, it has changed the market as well. So I mentioned our past administration before. In my administration, I mean the president of our country was very much just focused on, and in fact, the title of this panel is The Race to the Top, and very much focused on racing and a competition to retain market dominance in the field of AI. And so it was very much anti-regulation, very much things that they thought might stifle innovation. But I think it is, from my standpoint and from my experience in the last 2 years in working with this, that there's general agreement that the risks are too large to move forth without some kind of guardrails in place to ensure that the development is protective not only of individuals and our societies, but also our economies. So that's my starting point.
Thank you very much, Lauren. I saw you nodding and now you're raising your hand. Minister Stojmenova, do you have some input as well?
Thanks a lot. So I will be very concrete. I will focus on the European Act on Artificial Intelligence that is being discussed at the working level in the Council right now. So what is required is a balanced regulatory approach to AI that will safeguard on one side fundamental rights without stifling innovation on the other side. And we can say that the act that is currently discussed is innovation friendly since it follows the risk-based approach. So mandatory requirements are used only when the use of an AI system could pose significant risk to fundamental rights and safety. So here we should really, I know it's a difficult question, but the right answer is yes, to find the balance. We don't want to hinder the human rights.
Thank you very much. For Isidro and Mariya, perhaps we had the transversal question also regarding the use of innovation facilitators, such as innovation hubs and sandboxes, as a way to enable innovation, but also as a way for regulators to keep pace with innovations. What do you think about this statement? And can we indeed combine the use of innovation facilitators and regulation? And yes, who would like to start with this?
Indeed, the question of the role of sandboxes and experimentation facilities to ensure that regulators are not a problem for the innovators, this is the key. I mean, we have a good example here with the artificial intelligence, where the artificial intelligence was done by the researchers and the innovators, and the regulators, we came later. And we are, as Emilija said, we are trying to do as little damage as possible, but we had to recognize that the artificial intelligence was not co-creating with us. We were not intervening on any of that. And then in particular area of artificial intelligence, we are talking not only about the data, we are talking about the algorithms. And also how the algorithms are trained, with which data they are trained. So these are three different aspects in which the regulators are not involved. They are not involved in the development of the algorithms, where they can, depending on where they are developed, China, in the US, or in Europe, or in other parts of the world, they may have some bias due to the culture. It's not something done on purpose, it's simply the culture of the developers who have done it. The second problem might be with and where we are not involved either, the regulators, is when they train the algorithm in AI. AI algorithms is not like algorithms when I was a developer 20 years ago, that they were doing exactly what I was telling them to do. They are learning. And they learn based on the data they are fed into. And then if an algorithm developed by an American company is fed into with data from the US, the result will be very different if we have trained the same algorithm, maybe developed by the same American developer, with European data. And here again, in this feeding of data into the algorithm, the regulators are not there either. And then, of course, we have the final part, is where this algorithm goes into the real world with data. And in that part normally is where the EU is intervening with the final part, the user, and how this will impact the user. But this is, I mean, by design is wrong. We cannot do other thing because this is where we are. We were not with AI from the beginning, where we need to take this approach. But we should learn from this for the future that the regulators should be from the beginning there. The department of the Ministry of Emilija should have functionaries working with the future startups, maybe not in AI, in other areas that will be coming later, with the metaverse, with all these kind of things. We should have already been working there, so that in 3 or 4 years, they don't come with already a solution, and then we will try to do as little damage as possible, but of course, we will do damage. Recognize that, we will try not, but that's what it is. But we should change the approach. It's not, the approach should not be, the decision should not be doing more or less damage, be more friendly to innovation or not in the regulation of technologies, but more how we ensure that the regulators are working with innovators from the beginning, from the design phase. This is the solution, and this is what the sandboxes and the experimentation facilities allow. And this in fintech, I think, Mark, you were talking before about the fintech. This is an example of where we have been using sandboxes first in the UK, then in the Netherlands, and then many other countries in Europe to work on an area like fintech that is very heavily regulated, and the startups were disrupting, and we were working with them from the beginning on the sandboxes approaches. And sandboxes is one of the main priorities for the new European Innovation Agenda.
Thank you very much, Isidro. I would like to leave the last words to Mariya, remembering that actually regulators can intervene as far as trustworthy AI by design is concerned. But Mariya, the last few words are yours.
I think this is a really important question, and I can only really answer it based on our experiences in our innovation hub. And those experiences have told us that tools like this are indeed very useful for regulators to keep pace with innovations, to help understand. Then our innovation hub was created in June 2021, and we had more than 200 inquiries during our first operating year, and we have only 2 innovation specialists there. And now for each of the 200 companies that contacted us, this was just perhaps a few hours or days or weeks working with us. They got their answers and they moved on. But for us, after each inquiry was completed, there was another one and another and another. So 200 of them, right? And we were able to learn something from all of them. And for cases where these were very new technologies that we had, little understanding of earlier, we reached out to innovation hubs in other member states as well to get any information on how they have approached similar cases. Or we, talked with other people in our networks that had some experience. So in that sense, we're always seeing, new business models, and we're always learning, understanding the risks, understanding what areas we need to be regulated to avoid risks materializing. And I think when it comes to the innovations, as a regulator, that is exactly how you achieve your objectives of ensuring safety, and you can be there early, as Isidro again said.
Thank you very much, Mariya. So I guess we will see you all provided a lot of food for thoughts about this topic, and I guess we will see the next steps in a multi-level international collaboration, because it seems like this is what you are all calling for. So thank you very much again, and we will now leave the new panel start. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne.
Bye. Thank you.